There is a particular misery in lying awake at 2 in the morning in a hot room, the sheets stuck to your back, the air thick and dead still, the little fan in the corner just pushing the same warm air over you again and again. You get up, you run cold water over your wrists at the sink, you stand a moment in the open light of the refrigerator like a guilty child. And if you have an air conditioner running somewhere in that house, you can almost feel the meter on the outside wall spinning in the dark, turning your sleeplessness into somebody else's profit all night, every night, all summer long. But there were people who slept cool in this same country, in heat just as fierce, with no air conditioner anywhere in the house. The generation before us lived through August that would lay us flat, in farmhouses with no machine to save them. And they rested comfortable. Not because they were made of sterner stuff than we are, because they knew something about a house and about the day itself that we have very nearly thrown away. My name is Pastor Eli, and today I'm going to give you the whole of it. How the old folks kept a room cool through the worst of the summer for about $8, with no air conditioning and no electric bill at all. The center of it is a daily rhythm that costs you nothing but a little attention, morning and evening. I'll add a small cooler you can build for a window that waters itself and chills the breeze as it comes in. And I'll show you how to make a hot bedroom fit to sleep in on the stillest night. But I care too much about your well-being to let you think this works the same in every corner of the country, because it does not. So I'll tell you plainly where this is pure magic and where it hardly lifts a finger, depending on the air where you live. And I'll give you a serious word of safety before we're done, because heat is no small thing and it takes the old and the frail every summer. Honest is better than sorry, every single time. And hear this before anything else. There is one mistake, a simple matter of timing, that stands between a house cool as a cellar at 3 in the afternoon and a house turned to a brick oven by noon. Nearly everyone gets it exactly backwards. They do the very thing that bakes them in the firm belief that it's helping. I'll show you what it is, and once you've seen it, you will never do it again as long as you live. Stay with me for that, because it's the keystone of the whole thing, and it costs nothing. Let me tell you who taught me, because she's the reason I can stand behind every word. The oldest soul in our congregation is a woman well past 90, sharp as a tack, raised on a farm that had no electricity until she was nearly a grown woman. I sat with her on her shaded porch last August, the two of us with sweating glasses of tea, and I asked her straight out how on earth they bore the summers before there was any such thing as cooling. And she laughed at me, not unkindly. She said, "Child, we were cooler in that old farmhouse than you are in that modern box of yours." And then she walked me through it, plain as plowing, exactly how her mother ran that house through the dog days of July. A rhythm the whole family kept every day without fail, like grace before a meal. It was so simple I felt a fool for never once having thought of it. And it is the very thing I'm about to hand you, because she handed it to me. And a thing that good ought not go into the ground with the last person who remembers it. Now let me show you how cooling truly works. Just the bones of it. Because once you have this, the rest falls into your hand like a ripe apple. And no salesman will ever fool you again. Heat is a restless thing. It never sits still. It is always moving toward whatever is cooler than itself, always trying to even the world out. When the air outdoors is hotter than the air in your room, the heat outside is pressing in through the walls, through the glass, through every crack, trying to get to the cool. And when the night air outdoors turns cooler than your room, the heat trapped inside wants to flow back out the same way. That one simple law, that heat always travels from hot toward cool, is the entire game. The old folks won it by working with that current instead of fighting it. They opened the house wide when the flow helped them, and they shut it up tight when the flow would have hurt them. That's the whole secret, and it's free. So here is the rhythm she gave me, the heart of this whole video. 3 movements, like a hymn. And the second one is where nearly everybody goes wrong. The first movement is the morning flush. In the cool hour just after dawn, when the night air is the freshest it will be all day, you throw the house wide open, every window, front and back, top and bottom. You let that cool morning air pour straight through and push the last of yesterday's heat out the far side. A house breathing the dawn. 20 minutes, half an hour, however long the air outside stays cooler than the air inside. You're filling the house up with cool the way you'd fill a jug at the spring. And here is the second movement, and I want you to lean in because this is the keystone. This is the mistake nearly every living soul gets backwards. The moment the outdoor air starts to climb warmer than the air you've trapped inside, usually by mid-morning, you shut the house, all of it. Close the windows, pull them down tight. And you keep that cool morning air sealed inside like preserves in a jar through the whole blazing afternoon. Now most folks do the exact opposite, and it cooks them alive. The afternoon heat comes on, the house starts to feel close. And what's the natural thing? You throw the windows open to get some air. And the instant you do, you've invited the 100-degree afternoon straight into your home to chase out the 75-degree morning you'd been keeping. You let the furnace in to drive out the cellar. Folks fling the windows wide at the hottest hour, feel that blast of oven air roll in, and conclude the old ways simply don't work. The old way was never the problem. The timing was upside down. Open at dawn, shut by mid-morning, and you hold the cool. Open in the heat of the afternoon, and you've thrown it all away. That one piece of timing, free as the morning itself, will change your whole summer. The third movement is the evening release. When the sun goes down and the outdoor air finally falls cooler than your room, you open it all up again, wide, and let the day's heat that's soaked into your walls drain away into the night. Then you sleep with it open, breathing cool, and in the gray of the morning you rise and flush it fresh and begin again. Flush at dawn, seal by mid-morning, release at dusk. That is the rhythm a whole generation lived by, and it is the most important thing I will tell you today, and it costs not 1 red cent. Now you may wonder how shutting a house up in summer keeps it cool, when every instinct says a closed-up house gets stuffy and hot. Here is why it works, and it's the same reason the stone church stays cool at noon. Everything solid in your house, the walls, the floors, the very furniture, holds on to the temperature it had in the cool of the morning. The old builders called it the weight of a house. A heavy old farmhouse with thick walls and real plaster soaks up the morning cool and gives it back slowly all afternoon, like a brick that's been sitting in the shade. When you seal the house at mid-morning, you trap not just the cool air, but all that cool held in the bones of the place. Open it to the afternoon, and you flood it with heat. The walls then drink up and hold against you all evening. Keep it shut, and the house stays cool from the inside out. The old stone spring houses, the root cellars, the thick-walled farmhouses, every one of them ran on this same quiet principle. Weight and shade and good timing. Which brings me to the sun, and the single greatest source of heat in your house, the one almost nobody thinks to block. It isn't the warm air that heats your rooms the most on a summer day. It's the sunlight itself, pouring straight through your windows and falling on your floors and walls, where it turns to heat and stays. A window in the full afternoon sun is a hole in your house pouring fire onto the carpet. The old folks knew this in their bones. They planted shade trees on the south and west sides of the house, not for beauty, but to throw a cool shadow over the walls and windows through the worst of the day. They hung the porches deep and wide so the high summer sun never touched the windows behind them. They closed the shutters, real working shutters, on the sunny side at noon. So you find the windows that take the hard afternoon sun, the ones facing south and west, and you shade them. And mark this because it matters more than folks think. Shade on the outside of the glass beats shade on the inside every time. Once that sunlight has come through the glass and into the room, the heat is already born, and a curtain only traps it against the window. Far better to stop the sun before it ever gets in. An awning, a shutter, a section of lattice, a length of shade cloth, even a leafy branch propped against the sunny window, anything that throws a shadow on the glass from outside. The old porch and the old shade tree were doing this exact work free of charge for 100 years before anyone thought to sell us a machine instead. Now let me give you the $8 cooler for those hot afternoons when even a sealed, shaded house wants a little help, and especially for those of you in dry country where this will work wonders. We talked about evaporation a moment ago, the oldest cooling there is. When water turns from liquid into vapor, it must pull heat out of the air around it to make the change. It's the very reason a wet sheet on the line dries cool to the touch, and the reason the good Lord built you to sweat. We are simply going to put that to work in a window. Here is the build. You take a clean cloth, a piece of thick cotton, an old terry towel, or best of all, a strip of felt or wool that drinks water well. You hang it down over the inside of an open window on the shady side of the house, where what little breeze there is can pass through the wet cloth and into the room. The bottom edge of that cloth you set sitting in a shallow basin of water, a pie pan, a baking dish, anything that holds water. And now the small, clever piece that makes the whole thing work without you fussing over it all day. The cloth itself acts as a wick. It drinks the water up out of the basin and stays wet clear to the top all on its own, the same way a lamp wick draws oil. As the dry breeze passes through that wet cloth, it gives up its heat to evaporate the water, and the air that reaches you is cooler than the air outside. You refill the basin once or twice a day, and that's the whole labor of it. A few dollars for the basin and the cloth, and you've built a little cooler that runs on water and wind and nothing else. In dry heat, this is a genuine wonder, and it will take the edge clean off a room. I'll be honest about humid country in just a moment, because you deserve the truth of it, and the truth has two sides here. But first, the bedroom, because a body that can't sleep in the heat is a body in real misery, and there's an old way to fix it. On a still hot night, one fan placed wrong does almost nothing, and one fan placed right changes everything. Don't aim a fan at your bed to blow hot air on yourself all night. Instead, set a fan in the window once the evening air outside has turned cooler than the room, and aim it to blow that cooler night air in. If you've a second fan, set it in a window on the far side of the house facing out to push the warm inside air out. Now you've made a current, a true cross breeze, pulling the cool of the night in one side of the house and driving the day's heat out the other. That moving river of night air through the house will cool it faster than any still room ever could. And to cool the body itself, the old folks had a simple trick worth more than it sounds. A damp cloth, wrung out so it's cool but not dripping, laid across the back of the neck or the wrists or the ankles. Those are the places where the blood runs close to the skin, and cooling the blood there cools the whole body, gentle and even. A lightly dampened sheet over you in front of that cross breeze on the worst nights, and the evaporation will carry your heat away as you drift off. Grandmother knew that a cool neck and cool wrists meant a whole body at peace. It costs a bowl of water and a clean rag. If you're finding these old ways worth keeping, tap that subscribe button and walk along with me. Every week I bring up another piece of this forgotten wisdom from where it's been buried, and there's a deal of summer left to put it to use. Now I'm going to keep my promise to you, the way I always do, and tell you the honest truth about where this works and where it doesn't. Because you've trusted me this far, and trust is a thing I will not spend carelessly. All of this, the rhythm and the shade and the cross breeze, works everywhere, in every climate, because it's only the moving of heat and the blocking of sun. That part is for all of us. But the wet cloth cooler, the evaporation, that one depends entirely on the air you live in. And here's the plain truth of it. If you live in dry country, the high plains, the desert southwest, the inland west, the mountain states, the wet cloth cooler will astonish you. Dry air is thirsty air, and thirsty air drinks the water off that cloth fast and greedily, and pulls a great deal of heat out of itself doing it. You can knock the temperature down hard in dry heat with nothing but a wet cloth and a breeze. That's the very principle the big evaporative coolers out west are built on, the ones they call swamp coolers, and they cool whole houses with it. But if you live where the summer air hangs heavy and wet, the deep south, the Gulf Coast, the humid bottomlands, where your shirt sticks to you by 9 in the morning and the bathroom mirror fogs in the shower, then I'll tell you straight, the wet cloth will do very little for you. Humid air is already so full of water it can't drink up much more, so the evaporation barely happens and barely any heat gets pulled away. In wet country, lean hard on the rhythm and the shade and the cross breeze, which work for everyone, and don't trouble yourself much with the wet cloth. I won't sell you a thing that won't serve you. That wouldn't be honest, and it wouldn't be kind. Here's a simple way to know which kind of air you have before you build a thing. Hang a wet towel out in the shade where the air can move past it. If it's bone dry in an hour or two, you've got dry, thirsty air, and the cooler will serve you beautifully. If it hangs there damp half the day, your air is heavy and wet, and you'll do better with shade and breeze alone. The towel tells you the truth about your own backyard better than any map. And now the most important words I'll say today, so hear me as you'd hear a friend who loves you. These old ways are good and true, and they'll carry you comfortably through an ordinary hot summer, the way they carried your grandparents. But a dangerous heat is another matter entirely. When the heat climbs to where it threatens life, and it does every summer, these methods help, but they do not replace real cooling, and I will not pretend otherwise. Heat is one of the quiet killers of the old and the unwell, and it takes too many every year who never saw it coming. So if you are up in years, or your health is frail, or you're caring for someone who is, and a true heat wave bears down, please get to a cool place. A library, a church hall, a neighbor's house with air conditioning, a cooling center, anywhere the air is truly cold. There is no shame in it and no waste in it. Drink your water before you feel thirsty. And look in on your elderly neighbors when the heat turns deadly, because a knock on the door has saved more lives in a heat wave than any clever trick ever invented. That is not thrift, friend. That is the law of love, and it comes before all the rest. I tried this rhythm myself last summer in the old parsonage, which has no central air to speak of. I'd been a doubter, truth be told, so I put a thermometer in the front room and I kept it honest. I flushed the house at dawn, sealed it up by 10 in the morning, shaded the west windows with an old sheet on the outside, and left it shut through the afternoon. By 3 o'clock, when the porch thermometer read 94 in the shade, the front room read 79. 15 degrees of difference, friend, from nothing but timing and shade. No machine, no bill. I stood there in the cool of that room with the heat shimmering off the yard outside the window, and I thought about all the summers I'd spent paying the power company for what good timing would have given me free. 15 degrees. From remembering to shut a window at the right hour. Now set the tools and the timing aside a moment, friend, because there's a deeper thing here, And it's the real reason this sits so heavy on my heart. We have been taught, slowly and thoroughly, that comfort is a thing you buy. The cool air comes from a machine, through a duct, on a bill that arrives every single month and climbs higher every summer. We've come to believe that being comfortable in our own homes is a service we rent from the power company, and that the only answer to heat is to spend more. And so a hot afternoon, which our grandparents met with an open window at dawn and a shut one at noon and a glass of tea in the shade, has become for us just another reason to pay. I won't tell you there's some wicked schemer behind it. There isn't. It's simpler and quieter than that. The machine came along and it was a marvel, and it was easy. And one summer at a time, we let the old knowledge slip until almost nobody's grandmother's rhythm got passed down. There's no profit in teaching a man to cool his house with the dawn and a shut window. Nobody can put a meter on the shade of a tree or bill you monthly for the cool of the evening. So the knowing of it just went quiet, the way these things do, until a whole nation sat sweating in sealed-up houses at noon with the windows thrown open, paying to be uncomfortable, and never once suspecting there was another way. And what was lost was never just a trick for staying cool. It was a whole way of being at peace with the day, of rising with the cool and resting in the shade through the heat, and moving with the rhythm of the hours instead of fighting them with a machine. There is a contentment in that, friend, that no thermostat ever gave anyone. The very first time Scripture speaks of a cool breeze, it's a tender thing. In the book of Genesis, it says, "The Lord God walked in the garden in the cool of the day." The cool of the day. The evening, when the heat breaks and a breeze stirs and the world grows gentle, was the hour the Lord chose to walk with the man he'd made. The cool of the evening was made for fellowship, not for a power bill. And the prophet Isaiah, reaching for a picture of God's care for the weary, called him a shadow from the heat, a shade in a dry and weary land. The Lord himself is described as shade over his people. Shade was understood by the people who first heard those words as one of the great mercies, a gift from above, free to the poorest soul who ever sat beneath a tree. The Apostle Paul wrote to young Timothy that godliness with contentment is great gain, and that having food and covering, we should be content. Not a house full of machines. Food and covering and the contentment to rest in what the good Lord already provides. The cool of the morning, the shade of the afternoon, the breeze of the evening. A wet cloth in the window and a bowl of cool water for your neck. These were enough for the people who raised the people who raised us, and they were not miserable. They were, in a way we've half forgotten how to be, content. That is the inheritance worth keeping, not the machine. The peace of a man who knows how to be cool and comfortable with what the morning gives him for free, and who owes the power company nothing for the privilege of resting easy in his own home on a summer night. So here is your errand for this week, and it begins tomorrow at dawn, and it costs you nothing to start. In the cool of the early morning, throw your windows wide and flush the house with that fresh air. Then by mid-morning, before the heat climbs, shut them tight and hold that cool inside. Shade your south and west windows from the outside against the afternoon sun. And when the evening air turns cool at last, open it all up and let the day's heat pour out. That much is free, and it's the heart of everything. Then, if you live in dry country, build the little wet cloth cooler for a window, a basin and a cloth for a few dollars, and feel the breeze come through it cool. Set up your cross breeze with a fan or two for sleeping, and on the worst nights a cool, damp cloth on the neck and wrists. Do the towel test to learn your own air. And please, in dangerous heat, mind the word of safety I gave you, for yourself and for the old folks near you. Then come and tell me down in the comments, is your summer air dry or wet where you live? Do the towel test and report back, because it'll help your neighbors here know what will work for them. And tell me this, Did your folks have a way of keeping the house cool before the air conditioner came? A shaded porch, a sleeping porch, a damp sheet, a rhythm to the windows? Somebody reading this remembers it, and the rest of us are the richer for hearing it. I read every one of these. Next time we go back out to the yard where the wasps and the yellow jackets are building under your eaves and along your fences right about now, I'm going to show you the old country preacher's way to clear them out. No exterminator, no poison spray, with something most folks would never think to try. Late summer is their angriest season, friends, so don't wait on it. Subscribe and walk along with me. Until then, look well to what you've been given, waste nothing, and God bless.